Vallabha Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnu Para Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Ashtotar Satashila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai. Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Baradeva Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Madhava Ki Jai. New Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paschachare Shatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, entitled Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. And I believe it's 24, is that correct? Mati mai nibadheyam Navi padeta karhichit Pajasagani rodepi Smitisha madanugrahat Mati mai nibuddheyam Navi padeta karhichit Pajasarga Vinarodepi Mitischa Madanugrahat Matirmaena Badeyam Navipadeta Kaichit Pajasarga Nirodepi Mitischa Madanugrahat Matirmaena Badeyam Navipadeta Kaichit Pajasarga Nirodepi Mitischa Madanugrahat Matimayeni Vadaya Navipadeta Karichit Pajasagani Rodepi Mitischa Madanugrahat. Ladies. Hare Krishna. Sakrit. No? Next one. Okay. Matihi. Intelligence. I lost my intelligence there. Mai. Devoted to me. Nibada. Engaged. Iyam. This. No. Never. Vipadyeta. Separate. Karhichit. At any time. Praja. Living being. Sarga. At the time of creation. Nirodhe. Also at the time of annihilation. Api. Even. Smritihi. Remembrance. Cha. And. Mat. Mind. Anugrahat. By the mercy of. Translation in purple by Srila Prabhupada. Intelligence, engaged in my devotion, cannot be thwarted at any time, even at the time of creation, as well as at the time of annihilation. your remembrance will continue by my mercy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devotional service rendered to the personality of Godhead never goes in vain. Since the personality of Godhead is eternal, intelligence applied in his service or anything done in his relation is also permanent. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that such transcendental service rendered unto the personality of Godhead accumulates birth after birth, and when the devotee is fully matured, the total service counted together makes him eligible to enter into the association of the personality of Godhead. Such accumulation of God's service is never vanquished, but increases till fully matured. Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody this morning for Srimad Bhagavatam absorption. I think that I left. Did I leave a Bhagavad Gita on the side of the, right there? I don't know, on the book table, on the book stand. Can someone check it out? It's it'll be lying flat probably. Ah, there we go. Thank you. I brought this with me. This verse and purport. Let's just look at the verse for a moment. There, the Lord is indicating the eternality of any form of devotional service. And in the purport, I would say that Srila Prabhupada predominantly extends on that point. Not very long purport, but it leads into the obvious statements of the Bhagavad Gita, which we'll read in a second or two. It also refers to the connection between intelligence and remembrance. Srila Prabhupada does, and of course in the Bhagavatam, I don't know, maybe in the third canto, describing the functions of the intelligence and memory, remembrances. That's why it's sometimes said that animals have very little intelligence. They can do the same. You watch a fly trying to get out the window. Will never give up. He hasn't got that kind of intelligence to realize this will not work. Lack of proper intelligence. Intelligence is understood, of course, materially speaking, perhaps a little differently to the spiritual understanding. It has something in common, but not very deep understanding of intelligence function. So remembrance is functional of the mind, and to learn from that remembrance, of course. So understanding is another aspect of the intelligence. So to remember understanding Krishna, to remember Krishna. The other point is here that, as we see in the Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say about remembrance? Can you remember something that he says about remembrance? Yeah, just remember me, but something in regards to the power of remembrance. Yes. What is it? That's in the 15th chapter. In fact, that verse, 15:15, I believe, is the most quoted verse in the whole Gita by Srila Prabhupada. Not because there's two distinct sections of that verse. They're very connected, by the way. But they seem to be, in one sense, separate in themselves. By all the Vedas am I to be known, and the compiler of the Vedanta, of the Vedas, and the knower of the Vedas, and so on. And then Krishna says, what does he say? From me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. We can always revert to, and sometimes we do, well, Krishna's responsible for everything. Don't blame me. Not my fault. We can take that approach if we want, but that's not full understanding. Certainly, Krishna is the source or the cause of our remembrance. We think it's sometimes we think we're the cause. I've got a really good memory. No, I don't. But I mean, somebody may say, I've got a very good memory. And they wake up the next day, they can't remember who they are. Isn't it? Sometimes happens. It's not exactly our memory. It's inspired by Krishna or reminded by Krishna, we could say. He's reciprocating with the individual, according to one's karma, according to one's desire, and so on. We're going to phone a little bit more on that. There's the mercy, so anugraha, this word mercy. We'll just briefly mention, you can remember, I'm sure, the verse in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about this principle of primary principle mentioned by Prabhupada in the purport, which is, what is that primary principle? The devotional service. What? Pardon? Eternal. Never goes in vain. Even a little bit is, pardon? Yeah, 2nd chapter, text number. Neha Bikramona, who knows the verse? Neha Bikramona Shasti Pachavaya Vidyate Svapurapes. There Krishna says to Arjuna, what does he say? 240. I'll read the exact translation just so that we don't speculate. In this endeavor, he's talking, in depth, he's talking about the path of engaging in relationship with Krishna in devotional service. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. We know every material endeavor, you lose it. Due course of time. Time does not influence devotional service. Not the same way it does material activity. Material activity gives and takes away. Time spent in devotional service, as we simple point, is ever accumulative. 1% in this lifetime, or one drop in this lifetime, doesn't go away. Even if one does not water that tiny, tiny little seed, nonetheless the seed remains eternally. And maybe in the next lifetime, maybe in this lifetime. But sooner or later, that will again grow until eventually it reaches full maturity. And this verse says there's no diminution, and a little advance on the path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. What is the most dangerous type of fear? Pardon? Death? Death? Coming back again, you don't want to come back? It depends. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what most people would say about that. Some would say, no, I want to go to heaven. Some would say, I don't want to come back anywhere. Some would say, no, I don't want to come back. I want to go to the spiritual world. Or somebody will say, yes, I want to come back. And different people might say other things, but you're saying danger is to come back again. Well, yeah, you could say it depends. Coming back again, but particularly it refers to losing something very valuable. Pardon? Losing? Huh? 2, 3 at once, I can't hear anything. Krishna Charanavinda is speaking. Losing the opportunity of the human form of life. Because if we don't use our intelligence in this way now, that's what we're going to try to discuss today. Using our intelligence properly. Is resting on that. And if we don't use it properly, there's no point in having a human form of life. It is not meant for sense gratification. Animals, whatever little intelligence given by the super soul they have, is directed towards sense gratification, wholly and solely. If they act according to their stimuli, generally speaking, they have some degree of remembrance, but it's very shallow, given by the Lord. That don't go there, it's fire, you'll get burned. Some little thing is there, but not very much. Not beyond that which is within their realm of, let's say, necessity for sense gratification. It doesn't go beyond that realm. And most human beings, unfortunately, don't go much beyond that realm either, if at all. By good fortune, they may get a touch of spirituality, but their intelligence is hardly working in that direction. Next to impossible for them to understand, isn't it? When you try, honestly speaking, try to explain some kind of simple philosophy for most practicing devotees, it's almost impossible for people to grasp most of it. Maybe a little sentiment is there. Or to speak it when they try to read the Bhagavad Gita. Even scholars find it extremely difficult to understand. Their intelligence is, what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita, also in the 2nd chapter? A few verses down the line, in fact it's the very next verse after that one. Vyavasayatmika, but here, what's that verse? Ekeya Kurunandana Bahushakayanantascha Bhayavyasayanam. The intelligence of those who are on this path is fixed in purpose, resolute in purpose. Their aim is one. As those who are irresolute, in other words, people who really don't know the goal of life, their intelligence is many branched. They can't focus. They don't get the clear picture. If you can't focus, the picture's not clear, is it? You have a camera. Nowadays it's digital, but previously you had these manual cameras. You had to focus it, isn't it? To turn this thing and turn that thing. Otherwise it's a hazy, thick picture. It's not clear. People's perception is not clear. Their intelligence is unclear. And they're seeing it in many perverse ways. So let's move on. There's in the, what chapter is it? The 6th chapter, isn't it? Chapter 6. Arjuna asks Krishna a very relevant question, doesn't he? In this regards. What does he say? In the 6th chapter, he asks a couple of questions. He asks, at the very end, he asks a very relevant question. Can you remember chapter 6? Prabhupada, this is what the purpose directly referring to also. Chapter 6. What's the 6th chapter talking about? Do you remember? Dhyana, yeah, or Stanga Yoga also, Hatha Yoga is differently in different parts of the process of the eightfold process of yoga, the breath restraint, and other aspects too, but that's kind of like the part. Controlling the mind by various yogic techniques. And then Arjuna says it's difficult to control the mind, isn't it? Difficult to control. You ever found that out? Is it difficult to control the mind or not? No? You don't even bother trying. Most people don't bother trying hardly. They just kind of go with the mind, you know. Maybe they try a little bit. Some artificial method to control it. Some drug, some mundane technique of some kind. Temporarily may have some mundane effect, nothing beyond that. Well, he says it's difficult, more difficult to control than the raging wind. And Krishna says it's hard. But it's possible by practice and detachment. We know it's difficult. Detachment, pretty hard. Practice also, sometimes you have to have a bit of willpower or strong initiative of some kind or association for that. But he asks another question. I may be wrong here. I'll have to look and see, but I think he does. Let's see. Yes, he does. It's in the 6th chapter. You see, the intelligence now. I'll give you one definition. You could give several definitions of intelligence, which you'll find. I didn't have time to see. So, mind. What is the mind? What is the mind? Don't mind me asking, but what is the mind? Huh? Okay, that's kind of like saying what is blue. You say it's one of the colors different from red or something. Functionally speaking, what is it? Pardon? Soul. Soul. Okay. Let's say if you say that as soul, you have a little bit more work to do here. To go backwards a little bit. Some people think it's the self, don't they? Probably a lot of people. I meet a lot of people on Sankirtan who say that. You're asking them, what's the mind? You know, that's me. Or vice versa. What's the soul? The mind. It's a shallow understanding. It's connected, but it's not. Certainly not very developed understanding. I guess it's one up on the body. The mind, okay, is an instrument. First thing to understand, the mind is an instrument. We're referring, of course, to the situation we're in. It's an instrument. What is it an instrument for? Mayapur Chanda speak.
Inputs from all the other senses and kind of processes it.
Okay, that's one aspect you could say. It's like it's not like AI exactly, that also discriminates, but it's accumulation. AI, I guess, first of all, like a mind, accumulates all kinds of information, right? Isn't it? From all sources. Through the media of the senses.
An instrument for intelligence.
Pardon?
So it's an instrument for intelligence.
Well, it's connected to the instrument for intelligence. They have to be intelligent. If it's in of itself, it has specific aspects. Sometimes they're interrelated or even almost, synonymous with each other. But there's a fine difference between the functions of the intellect and that of the mind. Well, that's another aspect of the mind. If you don't, the mind does the same thing. you travel on the vehicle of the mind to another physical body somewhere, or subtle body if you don't care. It can be said to be like a mirror too, a mirror of the soul. And it depends, a mirror of what we've associated with in this material world, which indirectly is also Krishna's energy, so it can be seen like that. But in the material world, the mind is mainly a material mirror. It's not exactly a very spiritually enlivening field of perception. It's full of material thoughts. The first thing of the mind is it accumulates innumerable impressions. Innumerable. And that also, by the way, is not just a view which we see, like a photo book or something, but it also includes the tendencies to be attracted to a certain aspect of the thoughts and the tendencies and intense desires. This is all accumulated by experience, association, and results and so on over many lifetimes, which formulate how we react. There's another side to it. That's the intellectual side. But in terms of let's say, just whimsical reactions to situations, whimsical, without any thought, so to speak, of correction or anything. You just, like an animal, just goes by stimuli, just acts in that way. Most people are very influenced by that. And their tendencies are also a result of their karma. And, but so many thoughts. There are no limit to the vrittis or the various types of thoughts that come into our consciousness, is there? There's no limit. They enter like rivers into the ocean or waves on the ocean, isn't it? They never stop, isn't it? Even when you sleep, and of course it's deep sleep, but their thoughts, you dream, it's like a kaleidoscope, it's a jumbled sail of thoughts all mixed up there. But they keep coming to the consciousness of the self. So that's one thing, thinking, thoughts. People are always absorbed in thinking. Not for a moment do they stop, practically. And two other functions of the mind. So one is, of course, it's an instrument for feeling. So thinking, feeling, feelings. You feel those thoughts. Have you ever had that experience? Let's say, typical example. Typical example, and we all suffer from this, boy or girl. You see, or whatever one's tendencies are due to karmic sojourn. One sees something. Okay, we'll make it a little bit more or less striking. You're walking along the street. You see a donut shop. You have donuts. You don't see many donuts in France, not like America. You can't live without a donut in America. A day without a donut is a disaster. No, not quite that bad, but it's something like that. You see it, or maybe you like chocolates, biscuits, sweets, I don't know what you like, cookies, cakes, bread. French people like their bread. You walk past a nice boulangerie, something like that. Hot, fresh bread, huh? The pan. Nice hot bread. What do you feel? Your nose sniffs, right? You can't help it. And then what do you feel? So the thought comes in. What do you feel? Huh? You feel at home. You want it. You want that. You know what it is. You've got some experience. You know what that smell means. And it is a very special smell, isn't it? Hot bread, isn't it? Isn't it attractive? Yeah, Mayapur knows. He's also familiar with bread. Although he's not French, he's also very familiar with bread. That's one of your, green ticks for being in France. You like bread. Bread. And then what do you want to do? You sniff it. Yeah, I want it. Isn't it? Next thing you want it, right? You feel at home, feel for it. Then I've got to get it. Isn't it? You look around, you're a devotee, Nobody's looking. No devotees around. Have I got enough money to buy it? And then you go, butter. I don't know if you like butter on it too. You like butter on it? You like to take butter on also? Butter? We're drawn to it, isn't it? Now, what would the intelligence say? Pardon? It might say that. It might say, do it. More likely it'll say, do it. Just do it. What's the problem? I think it's vegetarian. Anyway, hope it is. I'm not going to be a fanatic. I'm not going to. You have to give a little bit of, you can't, don't be a fanatic. You got to have a little bit of sense enjoyment. Come on. It's not so bad. You're French. And if you're not French, what's the point of being in France? I know devotees who come to France just because of the bread. I have met devotees like, why you come? I just wanted to taste the bread and cheese. I've met devotees like this. Senior devotees. You may have met two Gopaswami. I'm not talking of you, by the way. You are French. You have a license. Huh?
Especially the croissants.
Oh, the croissant. A baguette, a croissant, whatever. I can't pronounce these words properly. And the cheese, famous. France is famous for its cheese and wine. I don't know if devotees go that far. Maybe. But your intelligence will be maybe a little bewildered what to do here. Oh my God, these grains are cooked by a karmi. It's a Kadashi today. I've got to restrain myself. What will people think if they see me eating this? The intelligence might come up with different thoughts, Oh, they think I'm a good guy because the intelligence will come up with different thoughts. So that's the intelligence. So the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing. The intelligence is supposed to handle what to do about this. Well, let's read something. Intelligence intelligence is deliberative. We're supposed to not just, it may happen real quick, but you're supposed to deliberate on the situation with remembrance. Wait a minute. You did that before. How did you feel? Different people, of course, will have a different experience for whatever reason. The materialists will great. The devotee will think, actually, my devotional enthusiasm was affected by it. Or got sick. Now, if you get sick, that's really good. Prabhupada describes that those who are... I remember one time I was on an aeroplane going from London to Delhi. And I was sitting with some senior devotees. And immediately they ordered a vegetarian meal on the plane. I never did that in my life. The only time in my life I ever did that. And it seemed like there was nothing there. He seemed quite satisfied with it. It was definitely vegetable. I mean, what you saw was vegetarian. I don't know the process of production. But it was vegetarian, vegetables and rice and maybe some bread or something, butter. Can't remember now. This is 40 years ago. 1979. Flying to Delhi, I remember the year. And within 5 minutes, I went to the toilet and vomited everything out. I got so sick. I felt so happy that Krishna immediately told me what not to do. And that's much better, Prabhupada says, writes, that being punished like that is a very great fortune, rather than having to, let's say, take birth again, according to what level you're on. Dangerous thing. Now, let's give another example. Nowadays, it's a very common thing in the world, even at Iskcon, to look at the packet in the supermarket and check everything down to 12648B, sodium phosphate, I don't know, all the different chemical terms and numbers to make sure it is vegetarian. I was driving a car one time from Atlanta to Kentucky, and there was one, not in Iskcon, sannyasi, and he said, can you go into the stop the car, can you go into the supermarket and see if there's any vegetarian pizzas in there? So, what? I had to do what he said. He was a sannyasi, even though not in Iskcon, but I had to do what he said. I didn't have to do it, but I did it. No interest in it whatsoever. In Atlanta at the same time, actually, there was a regional meeting of leaders, and they were distributing one drink, a choice of drinks. The most popular one was this dark one. Now, there's a drink in Malaysia called sarsi. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Sarsi. It's very dark colored. It's made from some root. Something. It's all right. It's vegetarian, and it's not intoxicating or anything. So I thought maybe this is that drink. It looked a bit like it. So I hope it's not Pepsi Cola or Coca Cola. I don't think so. No, it didn't smell. I was at a touch. I couldn't relate to the smell. It didn't attract my attention. It didn't smell very nice. Anyway, everyone was drinking it, so I drank a cup. No, I didn't drink a cup. I drank a sip. And I said, my God, this is horrible. What is this? I didn't know what it was. I just kind of put the cup down. Any more? Not me. No, that's okay. I asked the devotee next to me, what is this drink? He said it's called near beer. Near beer. You know what beer is? You have beer in France, right? You have beer in France? Beer. Beer. You have beer here? Okay. It tasted just like beer. I've forgotten what beer tasted like. I just, I never dreamt of that. So, and I hated it anyway in the first place, so it wasn't attractive. So I just, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm going to be embarrassed if I leave this here. There's a pot plant right next to me. When everyone was looking the other way, I just poured it into the pot plant, and life went on. But it's like, what is this? I mean, is that going to help us get free of the taste, the mundane things? I couldn't understand it. Or just seeing it as a vegetarian pizza. Now, if you're a complete karmi, in terms of, excuse the term if you're offended by it, but if you're a complete materialist, then to take near beer and you're an alcoholic is probably pretty good, isn't it? You're on the road a little bit in the right direction, I'd say. Or, even more profound, now they have vegetarian chicken legs, vegetarian steak, vegetarian fish, vegetarian mutton. It tastes like mutton or steak or whatever it is, chicken. You know this, don't you? Even some devotees are marketing it as their business. You know this quite well. You have those balls, they call those balls, vegetarian meatballs. They put them in the prasadam quite often in some places, especially the Sunday feast in some countries, full of vegetarian meatballs. Now, for a complete materialist, that may be kind of a step in the right direction. But for a practicing devotee, is it a step in the right direction? Not really. If you're that full, then you might justify it somewhere along the line. For preaching, Prabhu, we have to show by example. If I don't eat it, how are they going to eat it? You can justify it in different ways, I suppose. But it depends on the motive behind it as well. But it's not a good thing. We should have a little intelligence to discriminate. So the intelligence is meant to discriminate. An even more profound example, you see, let's say a man sees, you can't help it, the objects are there and the thought will be reflected in our consciousness or in the mind, isn't it? You see some attraction, whether it's to a donut or whatever it is, the thought will come. What you do with it then is the key. What happens? It's not, you can't stop thoughts. We're not blind, deaf, dumb, and so on. The mind is already full of thoughts from lifetime after lifetime. There's no end of them. And they're constantly, we're being exposed to objects which create another thought in the mind. The problem is when we feel for it, and when we will for it, then we become trapped. And now you've got the beautiful form of social media to help you to overcome this problem, isn't it? You don't have any, you lose your intelligence sometimes when you go on social media, isn't it? Or go on YouTube, you completely lose your intelligence. You get completely swept away in the form of, mundane materialism, isn't it? The intelligence of those who put it together, wrongly used, but used for material purposes, and you get captivated by it. Listening to this, listening to that, watching this, isn't it common? Okay, you've done a bit of devotional service. Good. But our mind is becoming more and more captivated and absorbed in these thoughts. We've all probably had some experience of this. And it definitely does. Statements there, it reduces one's will, enthusiasm, and appreciation for devotional service. It's a huge topic. We won't have time to go far enough. Didn't finish it off. A boy sees a girl, that's the most typical thing. A girl sees a boy, and everyone knows what happens. In the second chapter, there's another verse. If you go to text 62, what's that verse? Second chapter. Referring to this. Pardon? Yeah, see, he's a scholar. Read it, say it. Text 62, 63, isn't it? Where are we? Yeah. Then we'll come to the one from the sixth chapter. 62, 63. Then we'll try to finish off with the crunch statement. 62, 63. While contemplating what? The objects of the senses, a person develops attachment, feeling towards them. From such attachment, what happens? What happens? Lust. You want it. You've got to get it. You go mad sometimes if you can't get it. People kill themselves sometimes if they can't get it. Even at that stage. We have the same with kids. Out of sight, out of mind. But that's all very well, but you've already got a mountain of sin within our hearts. It's already there. It's already in the mind. And you can't, even Vishwamrita Muni, who was 60,000 years meditating, tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. And what's that tinkling sound? And there she was, Menaka. That was the end of his meditation for 60,000 years. You can't do that. Maybe for a little while, but it's a waste of time. Then, what happens after one develops lust or burning will to get it? What's next? We all know the story of a Jamil and others. Tried to avoid it, but they couldn't control it. And eventually had it. So what happens after that? If you can't get it, anger. Anger has different forms. It manifests in aggression to get, aggressive approach or frustration. envy and so many things if someone else has got it, it's like, you must get it. You must get it. And if you can't, then anger comes in. What happens then from anger? Pardon? Delusion. It's kind of madness. And when you come like that, what happens? Pardon? Loss of memory? Yes. In other words, one's intelligence is completely lost. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. Finished. This is the danger. So right in the beginning, Krishna says, what does he say? Right in the beginning, in the third chapter, must be lust. What you do with it, right at the beginning. Let's go to the third chapter. And when one's intelligence is lost, one falls down again. And that's the great loss. Losing this opportunity. How dangerous it is. Devotional service can save us, but you have to take birth again, as we see in the case of Bharat Maharaj. And that's to give us an example, by the way. It's not that he was like us. He purposely, by the will of the Lord, like Arjuna, Prabhupada says, purposely appeared to be an illusion for our benefit. But it just gives an example. We have to be careful, very careful. Prabhupada says his fall down was due to the fact that he lost his intelligence, could say. But he didn't go to some source of intelligence to understand what should I do now in this dilemma. That's the secret. So we go to the third chapter, and we see Krishna. There he says, what does he say at the end of the third chapter? Oh, Arjuna. I'll read the one before. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharats, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. In the very beginning. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So you can see the intelligence position between the soul and the mind, and everything else that goes along when the mind is sold out when the intelligence is sold out to the mind. The intelligence has a key feature. And in our Krishna consciousness, we talk a lot about the mind, a lot about the senses, a lot about other things. But maybe the intelligence is not particularly emphasized in terms of its function or its importance. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust. It never ends. This lust burns like fire. The more you feed it, the more it burns. The more you can. Never satisfied in material desires. They will be there. It's just, if we have the intelligence, we don't have to be slaves to the thoughts that have already been accumulated or are being accumulated in our minds. So we're to get that. So, okay, we'll just finish off the 6th chapter. If we don't pay heed to this, there's no loss in one sense. It's, as it states in the 6th chapter, if one reads in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, After Krishna explained how difficult it is to conquer the mind, but you can conquer it, Arjuna asked another question. For one whose mind, first of all, Krishna says, for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But for those whose mind is controlled and who strive by appropriate means, it is assured. One who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion, Krishna says. And then Arjuna asks a question. Who remembers what that is? End of the 6th chapter. Right at the end. What's he saying? Arjuna.
What is the goal of the transcendental?
Something along those lines, but not quite like that. Oh, Krishna, he says, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist? Who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism. What is his fate? Pretty reasonable question, and many of us probably have asked that question too. And public people ask it, well, what's the use? If you don't make it, what's the point? Oftentimes we get some doubt like that. You haven't got your material desires fulfilled, and you haven't attained spiritual success either. You're lost. I should have enjoyed what I wanted to enjoy for the max as long as I could. Well, I had the opportunity. Now it's too late. I'm 78 years old. God, the desire's still there. The willings, the desires, the feelings, the will. I can't do it. This is torture. What am I going to do? Sometimes this happens. It happens to everyone, honestly. Even the materialists are frustrated at the end of life. Those desires have not gone away. They're burning still, fire in their hearts. But they can't enjoy it. It's pretty miserable. And for a devotee, sometimes, to some degree at least, that may also be there. I could have been a millionaire. So many problems in the Hare Krishna movement. I could have been happy out there. In my house, my family, nobody bugging me all night long. Don't have to get up in the morning to go to this fanatical morning program. Don't have to take a bath after going to the stool. What's all this nonsense? I could have been relaxed. And sometimes crazy doubts come in. But then, so what happens to them?
They get born again and continue.
Oh, mighty Krishna, does not such a man who is... There's a mistake there. I don't know why this has changed from the old one. And in the word for word, it says deviated, but somehow it says a different word here. Who is deviated from the path of transcendence, fall away from both spiritual and material success, and perish. Does not such a man deviated from the path of transcendence? And how many devotees have been deviated, even, of course we're at neophyte stage, but so many have been deviated, is that right? Yes or no? So many. And we get deviated sometimes. Maybe we don't go jump over the cliff, but we're on the edge. So many have been deviated. Huh? And we've already heard basically the causes. Association, or the existing strong attachments are there, inattention, so many reasons. So many. Fences and so on. Not understanding that it's all by the mercy and anugraha of Krishna that we can be protected like this from falling. Doesn't he perish like a what? Like a what? Krishna says, he uses a specific term, like a riven cloud. What's a riven cloud? Cloud means a little cloud suddenly takes off from the rest of the cloud and disappears into fades out after a short while because it's so small, it just disappears in the sky. A riven cloud with no position in any sphere. You're like stuck in a limbo. You're neither materially successful nor spiritually successful. You're a complete loss. Of course, that's scary. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and this is where intelligence comes in. Arjuna has lack of intelligence in a sense, but he's using whatever intelligence he's got to ask Krishna, what shall I do? He's not just speculating or going to a crazy person. Sometimes we use our intelligence. Oh yeah, Prabhu, I'm also asking in confidence, but what are you actually asking? You're looking for someone to justify your own perverted perception or desire. And if someone doesn't agree with you, we go to someone else until we find someone who agrees. Well, they told me to do it. Sometimes you go to the Guru Maharaj, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you should do this, but I can't do that, Guru Maharaj. I can't do it. No, I can't do that either. What can you do? I can do this. Okay, do it. Guru Maharaj told me to do it. Come out the room. You're not going to do anything else. Whatever. You're only going to do what you want anyway, so go ahead and do it. Well, Guru Maharaj told me to do it. Often this is what happens. There's no choice. You're not going to do anything else anyway. So what to do then, Krishna, as you say, then he says, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Transcendentalist. And Prabhupada quotes, we're get into some beautiful statements. Earlier on, Narada Muni described Sadharmam Charanam Bhajanare, quotes these verses of Narada Muni. There's no loss on this path. And there's no gain by following the other paths, because they lead to birth and death. This path may not immediately produce the fruits you can say, but it's the beginning. The unsuccessful yogi, any kind of yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment, the unsuccessful yogi goes to the heavenly planets, is born again after experiencing happiness. And Prabhupada even said that with Jayananda Prabhu. Do you remember that letter he wrote? After Jayananda Prabhu left the world? Remember what Prabhupada wrote?
He must have gone back to heavenly planets if he has any material.
Yes, he said first he's going to the heavenly planets if he has any material desire. But then Prabhupada said no, he went back to Godhead. But you have that material desire, you can go to the heavenly planets. A devotee can, from there, also go on to the spiritual realm. One who's fortunate. That opportunity can be given, but oftentimes it means you have to come back down here and carry on. And you take birth, but you don't carry on from, bottom. You carry on where you left off. He is born in a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy, depending on the level of one's practice and what type of practice of spiritual life and the degree that we practiced or advanced, matured. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. So right away you get that chance. Everything works on that principle, materially and spiritually. We blame or we credit our situation to childhood or whatever experience that we have. But the family we're born into is entirely based on karma. And whatever happens, whatever we're exposed to in that that situation is appropriate according to our karmic tendencies. We blame uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, and of course, from the point of view of human organization, human civilized civilization, so on. Obviously, rules have to be put into place. Actions have to be taken. But primarily when a child is born, it's not that they're born and become something. They've already got that tendency which is brought out by association of that circumstance within the family, within society, whatever it is as we go through our lives. And that way it simply goes on ad infinitum, samsara, the blazing fire. And that is can be extinguished in human form of life, no other form, generally. But the process of extinguishing it is not just to pour oil on the fire. We have to know what to pour on that fire. Or taking such a birth, Krishna, on taking, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life. Automatically, it's family or, pious or devotional or whatever it is. Gives the chance. It doesn't mean that's it. You may not take the chance either, but you're given the chance. And he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. From this life it is understood that transcendental endeavor, or the practice of yoga, never goes in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. That seed eventually will produce the fruit. It may take a long time, but it will. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. That's on a little higher level, you could say. It doesn't apply to everyone on the spiritual path. Those who are actually more advanced. We find devotees when they come to Krishna consciousness, or people when they come, a common phenomenon is that you sort of get off to a rocket start. Have you ever had that experience? You make a rocket start, as they say. You know what that means? What does it mean? You go like flying in the sky, as if you're now Narada Muni or something. You transcended everything. I'm there. And then after some time you seem to kind of hit a plateau. And sometimes it's difficult to go forward. That's indicative also of previous, not absolutely exclusive thereof. It's also evoked by powerful association. But it's related, the two are usually there. That of some previous, there may not be, maybe purely beginning. But in normal terms, it's indicative of previous practice. I'm not saying it necessarily in our case. Prabhupada's potency and power can bring even the most ignorant person to an elevated platform very quickly. But generally, as we heard the other day, we're talking here in general, we're talking the normal process, aside from the fact that the association with the total resident of the Dham, Parishad of the Lord, that can lift one up immediately, moment association. But generally it's indicative, and it may also be related in our case, because we see that happens regularly. So what do we do? I'm going to finish off, because there's so much can be said, with one or two more things. Let's see. We'll go to a letter written by Prabhupada, because time is late. Prabhupada was constantly getting letters from devotees. And as time went on, he deferred them to his secretaries, his GBCs, senior devotees mostly, like that to deal with. But he was very fastidious and very careful in answering letters for the sake not just of the recipient, but for the movement, because as we see, those letters were circulated and now they're in book forms and so on. So one has to have a little intelligence to discriminate the relevance of the various points therein. But many of the points are really for everyone. Some are time, place, and circumstance. And here's one which is for everyone. This was a letter. I wanted to read two, but the other is too long. So this one is to Satyabhama in 1972. Satyabhama. She was the wife of, what's his name? The farmer in Gita Nagari, I believe. I think that was his wife, I think so. Okay, so she's having some doubts. I don't know what the doubts were, we don't have her letter. But she's having some doubts about something. To clear up these things, the best remedy is to discuss amongst yourselves, all members regularly, all of our books in classes. All of our books in classes. Then these doubts will be killed. That's, in terms of a practical thing, that's what's called istagosti. We talk about we're having an istagosti, but what we're having is not an istagosti, it's a management meeting. But istagosti is this. That's what it means. To come together, discuss points, and clear up doubts. Remove the doubts. Clarify. That's the purpose of an istagosti. Without reading books, it becomes hackneyed, and such obnoxious ideas trouble us. Our thoughts are always changing. You see this in the Bhagavad Gita, how in the beginning Arjuna had lost his intelligence. By hearing from Krishna, he regained his intelligence and his doubts were removed. That's exactly what he says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. My intelligence is now clear, my doubts are removed. One who studies his Bhagavad Gita with his intelligence can read the verse. What happens? Intelligence means to discriminate a little bit, to understand how this is applicable to us. He who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. And simply, even if you just listen, this is not necessarily one who's seriously applying, but just listening with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions. It's not very advanced, but he attains a higher position, higher birth. O son of Prita, have you heard this with an attentive mind? That means the intelligence is controlling, yes, on top. And your ignorance and illusions are now dispelled? Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I've regained my memory, which is, again, function of the intelligence. By your mercy, same thing as today's verse said, by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. So when we read these books, these are Krishna's instructions, which we're reading. That's why it's important. Absolutely important. Without reading books, it becomes hackneyed, dry, or we just depend upon our emotional experiences to make decisions, or those of others around us.
What is acne?
Hackneyed means it becomes dry, it becomes stale, it becomes, no taste, boring, like that. There's a town in London called Hackney. That's probably where it came from. Very boring. Nothing there. It's become a different town. Yes, it dries up. I think it kind of dries up, becomes hackneyed. In practical terms, we become cloudy and we lose our intelligence. We start to make decisions about how I feel, basing our lives on how I feel, all these lower, you could say, causes of action. Our thoughts are always changing. That is the nature of the mind. So you cannot expect that even the great saintly persons are free from thoughts coming and going. But after thinking, there is feeling and willing. Willing being the stage of putting the thoughts into action. So if we are able to employ our intelligence, then we will kill the thoughts before they become manifest in activity. Same thing Krishna said in the 4th chapter. Kill this lust at the beginning. Because we are so much inclined to enjoy something unintelligently, we have to therefore daily sharpen our intelligence faculty by reading and discussing and preaching to others. Notice, reading, discussing and preaching, not just reading. Reading, discussing and preaching means to share that with others and to put it into practice ourselves. Preaching means to put it into our own lives too. In this way, we are able very easily to defeat all challenges to our philosophy, and everything becomes very clear as it is revealed from different angles of vision. That applies in our own heart too, doesn't it? It's not just out there. We have all kinds of different philosophies in here too, due to lack of intelligence. Krishna makes promise to one who is striving to serve him sincerely that he will give such devotee the intelligence by which he may come to him. Therefore, we should always pray that Krishna may kindly provide me the intelligence to kill all demons of doubt. And because he understands the heart of his sincere devotee, immediately he gives assistance. Sincerity, that's the key. For my part, for example, I am absolutely certain that anyone who challenged me, I can defeat. Not because Prabhupada is thinking I am the greatest. No, because he's connected to Krishna. His intelligence is completely surrendered to Krishna. Krishna's guiding him. Why is that? Because Krishna gives me the intelligence. End of letter. That's not the end of the letter, it's the end of that point. Hare Krishna. So we'll finish there. Sorry, I've gone over time. Some food for thought or not? There may be no food for the stomach left, but hopefully there's some food for thought. I think that if nothing else we get out of this is to understand it. Prabhupada says, you read my books, you sharpen your intelligence. Intelligence is blunt. It's not going to cut through the labyrinth knot of material attachment. With a blunt knife, you can't even cut an apple. We're not going to cut that knot of karma or all the useless, attachments that keep us bound up in this world without a sharp intelligence. The sharp intelligence comes from hearing from the right source. Hearing means attentive. It doesn't just mean reading. I read 41 pages. Well, I'm going to read the Bhagavatam in a year and you can't remember a thing. You haven't applied a thing. It's not a mechanical process. A tape recorder can do that. Artificial intelligence cannot develop love of God. It may know everything you can think of, but there isn't an iota of love of God there, not one speck. We're not here to become intelligent of that sort. We're here to love Krishna. But at our stage, this proper utilization of our intelligence is necessary. And simple point, you know this is going to bum you up in terms of enthusiasm or whatever it is. And still we do. That means no intelligence. No intelligence. Intelligent people in this age of Kali, Krishna, Varman, Tusha, Krishna, engage in Sankirtan. At least that's a simple foundation to proper use of intelligence. There's more to it, but that's the most intelligent step to take. So I try to chant as much as we can, despite all the other shortcomings. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He's our intelligence. As Krishna was the intelligence of Arjuna, Prabhupada is our intelligence. Doubts come when we listen to somebody else. Maybe they've got some other perception, but they should be cleared up.